Hey everybody! So here we are at Century City, the den of wealth and opulence and LA capitalism. And I mentioned it because we just saw Blue Beetle.
Down with the imperialists.
Yes,
We're here. You haven't seen him since Cannes, but our friend and producer Jose,
he parties too hard,
way
so
too hard.
way too hard. So it's hard for him to pop in on these. But here he is, and we just had a great time watching the movie. I'll just say off the bat, it's a delightful surprise. It's a lot of fun. It's directed with uh, great heart, and I think the three of us were caught by surprise
We
with
were.
the heart of the movie.
I I I was extremely surprised, actually. The trailers make it look worse than it is, and
As with many trailers these
and
days.
I was setting a low bar just because of the state of the industry and superhero films. But this, yeah, I think Alcy said it perfectly. This movie has a lot of heart. I think it gets the family aspect very well, unlike another big franchise, which talks about family all the time, but it's all bullshit. It has good jokes, and it's self-contained, which I like. That the threat involves a more personal family angle. It's kind of like the first Ant-Man in that way, and I actually like that a lot. But the supporting cast, which is basically Jaime's family, is very good, and it actually has some very deep cuts for about U.S. imperialism and interventionism and militarism in Central and South America, which I was not expecting at all. Like, we're not just talking about the basics; we're talking about this director and writer like knew their history. They
Yes,
talk about the School of the Americas.
yeah, the Central American Civil Wars in the '80s, and also it's a nice depiction, a rare depiction, I would say, in pop entertainment of a working class Mexican family as well.
It's
Uh,
very class
but
conscious.
but all of it put inside the parameters of a superhero movie, of a
Yeah.
DC movie.
What's interesting about all this talk of imperialism and all of these themes within the movie is that in any other kind of superhero film, these things would be surface level entirely. They would be throwaway lines. They would be things that you talk about afterwards, like, "Oh my gosh, did you catch that line about U.S. imperialism? They're so cheeky.
They're so woke.
They're so woke." But in this one, it affects character motivations. It affects the plot directly. It's the entire basis of the film. It's not uh, cute little moments that you catch within the film. It makes the story.
I mean, for example, they make a line about Horde Industries buying an island from Batista in the 50s. Now, most people would think, oh, is that a comic reference? No, they're talking about Fulgencio Batista, the dictator of Cuba for how many? A long time.
A long time, over a decade. He ruled Cuba before the revolution, and if you look him up online, there's pictures of him hanging out with Nixon and a lot of U.S. officials. But the director clearly isn't using this information as gags. Yeah, and I'll point this out. It's something good comic books don't usually get appreciation for, which is that they seriously reference real things within their fictional world to not use them just as props, but to propel the story forward and give it a richer meaning. And that happens here, including in the references to, well, what it's like to be a Latino and going to college, but still facing gentrification, or
No guarantees for a job.
the unity of family.
Or hearing that same speech 1,000 times that you've heard from your family about how all of your uncles and your dad busted their ass to get us where we all are today. It really speaks to all the sacrifices we've made, and as a culture, as a people. And it takes that in both negative and positive ways, because it speaks to the sacrifices that have been made for us in the name of the U.S. government. Um, yeah.
No, yeah, it's very nice, and the way all of that is included, and it's something I brought up before, including when we've discussed Oppenheimer, which is that
Which Jose also saw with us, by the way.
yes,
He did Barbenheimer with us.
it's admirable when a director is given a budget of this scale, right, and is given the chance to make one of these popcorn movies, but they take advantage of the opportunity to talk about important things that they genuinely care about. Again, hidden in a movie that's also works is just a genuine good time. It's shot almost with a 90s, 80s spirit. The music by Haksan Cloak uh, references Tangerine Dream and Giorgio Moroder. Guys, I mean, I just remember the DP is the guy who shot Hereditary and Midsommar for Ari Aster. Yeah,
Well,
so it's got, but he captures here like a kind of 90s
It's
look.
true. Well, the licensed soundtrack I thought was used very well. The original soundtrack, I like that it's not just ripping off the 80s. It's inspired by the 80s, as you said, Tangerine Dream, a lot of synthwave. And I looked up the composer. I apologize if I mispronounced his name. I think it's Bobby Krilchek,
Well, he's part of a group called the Haksan Cloak.
but
Yes.
he's also does individual work under his
Yes.
name, and he has done video game music for a game called Returnal, which borrows a lot of inspiration from that same genre, but it's a little darker.
Cool.
But definitely more unique for a superhero movie. And another thing that I caught in the movie that I thought was a bit of a running theme, both in terms of class consciousness, but also in the sacrifices of immigrants, is the idea of sacrificing your body to a
Sure.
larger cause, right? His parents did that. Nana, the grandmother, also hints at that. But the fact that Jaime and the antagonist Parallax,
Parallax, yeah.
literally,
Parallax.
literally give their bodies over
That's a very good point.
Yeah, yeah.
Physically,
in order to save the family. Which, by the way, if people don't know this, in the U.S. military right now, the largest demographic of volunteers are actually Latinos,
Oh,
and
yes.
more Latinos have won service medals than any other demographic.
Well, it's been that way for a while because the armed forces tend to take so much of their, let's say, human resources from the low income working class parts of the country. And in the movie Parallax, the antagonist, that's the idea too, that his body has been reshaped by having been a death squad soldier in the 80s.
Well, he was a child soldier.
Yes, and then the corporation that runs, that's the main antagonist of the film, restructured his body even further into a kind of war machine. So it's
Literally reappropriating his body
Yes,
for their
yes.
own needs.
and
after
then
destroying him in the first place
Yeah.
because of the landmine he stepped on.
And
Yes.
for our video game friends out there, the series Metal Gear Solid deals with this a lot too, especially the fifth game, which is set actually in Afghanistan.
The Phantom
Oh.
Pain, which, by
Phantom
the way,
Pain.
also deals with sacrificing your body.
Yes. So, but as Elsie said, this isn't like, this isn't a serious. This isn't Salvador, right?
no,
The
yeah,
movie.
it's,
It's still a superhero film, but this is a perfect case of a director within the parameters of a superhero film, right? Trying to incorporate a sincere, not the Disney BS where it's like, oh, now we're gonna stop the movie and talk about that. No, it feels
Well,
genuine, or as genuine as you can be
even in
for
the
a big budget movie like this.
even in the soundtrack, there's no. The references to Latin pop culture are fantastic. The soundtrack features
El Chapulín, right?
El Chapulín Colorado. Yeah, so anyone who grew up watching Don Francisco and,
Yes.
and these telenovelas like María la del Barrio, there's so many. Even Selena, of course, gets referenced.
Well, also,
and-
another one. Did you notice how Nana she blesses Jaime before he goes into work? She does
Oh,
it
yeah, yeah.
multiple times, stuff like that.
And then there's the soundtrack, for example, has like one thing I like was it has artists like Celso Piña, but there's never once any mariachis
No,
popping
No,
out.
well,
no,
in fact,
no La Cucaracha playing.
Well, they did for the horn on the truck.
Well,
I
yeah,
didn't notice that.
but that's a cute little.
Instead of that, You know what they do is use, which was a shock to me, Motley Crue, right?
Oh
That was a
yes,
fun
yes,
moment.
yes,
That
that
was
was
a
a
fun
fun one.
moment.
Well, because everyone's had anyone who has a Latino uncle from the '80s knows that Motley Crue and Metallica was part of
But
their diet. But
another thing, speaking of family, and this is more on the comic book side, well, first of all, the world of Blue Beetle, it didn't feel like you were just in Chicago or, the Man of Steel stuff where it's like, okay, they're calling it Metropolis, but it's like,
The landscape was very
it,
animated, very cartoonish,
yeah,
but in the
felt
best
like a
way
comic
possible.
book, but also how it incorporates the legacy thing
That's true.
with it.
It felt like a lived-in world,
Yeah, I
as
mean,
opposed to being an overstuffed franchise
yes,
universe where like they constantly drop hints about other movies.
Easter eggs up the
It
wazoo.
really felt lived in. It felt like
Yeah.
other characters had occupied this world and left
Well,
wears and tears on it.
like Ted Cord. This is
Cord.
for more nerdy folks out there. That there was another Blue Beetle, and George Lopez's character, the original Blue Beetle, was actually a superhero at the time that the uncle was growing up. So it's like, how inspiration, it almost helps bring back a sense of wonder
what?
in a cynical society.
And I love how casual it is. Like you
Yes.
throw in this world that has already been occupied by superheroes. It's
And
not
corporations,
and
gentrification,
corporations,
right?
And our real world history.
To get even nerdier, real quick, Blue Beetle, funny enough, predates Superman. Blue Beetle was first published in 1939, so it's actually one of the
Really?
oldest. It's one of the oldest comic book
He
characters,
does
right?
look very much older than Superman in style.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely.
He looks very the Shadow,
Oh yeah, no, he's part of that
Yes,
tradition of
yes,
like
yes.
the Phantom. It's like
He looks
those
very
kinds
the
of.
Phantom.
It's like those kinds of heroes. And I also appreciated. I think we all did the fact that in terms of Latino representation, uh, not that you shouldn't show every facet of a community, but it was nice to see a Latino themed superhero movie where there's there's not no endless references to whatever gang culture and lowriders and
No,
all that.
and what
You
I
know
think, one more thing that I think the movie got really right about Mexican culture was how spiritual we are. I didn't really clock it until a good way into the movie, but there's a lot of scenes where we look into kind of like a spiritual side, and maybe it's not necessarily meant to be taken metaphysically, literally, but it's what our characters feel. And it really takes us into this sense of spirituality that all Mexicans kind of are in tune with because we've all had grandparents and parents who, are very hardcore Christian and believe in heaven and, like just doing the right thing because of those beliefs. And it was very nice to see. And I mean, digging even deeper into the nerd side of things, if you've seen the trailers, you know that this movie might seem like kind of cheesy, kind of hokey. You might think to yourself, "Oh, this like kind of looks like
Cringy.
Power Rangers, kind of cringy." Well, that's by design. This movie took a lot of inspiration from Japanese tokusatsu, which is what Power Rangers was kind of cut around. It's the original Power Rangers from Japan. There's a lot of physical suits that Zolo Maridueña
Yes. Thank you for bringing it up.
wears.
To me, it's that like, I think what this movie does and why I liked it is the whole time it balanced seriousness with lightheartedness, CGI with practical, real world locations with a comic book feel, and I liked that the physical suit. It did feel like Power Rangers, that cheap, but like endearing.
Yes,
And with the comedy, yes, it was wholesome and it had a good ultimate message, but it didn't just hand wave away. It didn't, Encanto is what it is, but goes a lot. It swings too much to the other side. That all happy, all magical, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
This, it talks about the real struggles of immigrants crossing the border, just trying to, make it day by day. The fears of having the police called on you, all those things,
yeah.
but then also finds ways to give a positive message, like a role model, like a good role model.
Yeah, it's the basically there's a nice sincerity to the characters and
That's the word, sincerity.
to the writing. And I like how you reference Power Rangers because I was thinking about that, but in a positive way
Yes.
because it has that energy of especially classic Power Rangers,
Yes.
early '90s Power Rangers.
Well, when
Very
you say-
common writer.
But when we say
Yeah.
cheese, like I mean that in the in the good way. It's
Yeah.
like low budget hearts.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry if
and-
it's so dark, everybody.
And
We're sort of,
tokusatsu, Japanese tokusatsu isn't the only Japanese reference. There is a point in the movie, they showed in the trailer, so this isn't a spoiler, where Jaime Reyes puts together two swords and creates the Buster Sword from Final Fantasy. When that happened in the movie, there was like, you could hear people in the movie theater going like, "Yeah, woo!"
You know, that's another point. First of all, I think our experience was so great. There was this one champ that anytime there was a joke, he like his laughter was so infectious that it got me laugh. It was just so nice.
we
And-
somehow always get those. Oh, they're turning off the heaters.
there we go.
But
But yeah, we had a good audience. It's like I don't know.
It's a good one to see with an audience.
Yeah,
it
and-
makes it even more
with,
fun.
with your family if you're Mexican.
Yeah.
Too.
Well, but you know, like we talked about this when we talked about Wakanda Forever. That it's like okay, we're seeing indigenous representation in a good way, but let's flesh it out more. And I think Blue Beetle, it's not like a major step forward, but it's a right step forward.
Well, it does. Yeah, and also because the emphasis here is on the Latino characters, whereas in movies like Wakanda Forever, Namor is essentially he's basically pushed into he's the villain, he's the antagonist, and essentially remains a side character in a way for most of the movie, with hints that there'll be a lot more to him once the next movie, whenever that comes out, is
And
made.
you know what just hit me? No white savior in this movie.
That's true.
Right.
No
Yeah,
Everett
yeah.
Ross.
Well, quite
No-
the opposite.
No.
Susan Sarandon is the
Oh,
is,
she gets
she's
well
just
without
evil.
spoilers, but let's say she gets comeuppance.
Yeah.
But no, even in Latino led films or black led films, studios do this thing where it's like we have to insert a white character so they can explain everything that's going on, but they don't do that,
No,
and it's
yeah.
refreshing. Like because in the Jaime in when he's represented in cartoons, he's always kind of young and he's being taught things by the Justice League and
Batman,
and
usually.
other characters, right? This one sometimes he's more of like a superhero geek, but this one they didn't do that as much, which I kind of like. Other ones it's like, oh man, I wish Batman. I love Batman and stuff. But no, this one it was more just like us now, like just finishing college, thinking about the future, and it's like okay,
Well, the director Angel Manuel Soto knows how to really give a community its voice. He did a movie that I really enjoyed 2 years ago that was very underappreciated, named Charm City Kings, about dirt bike riding culture in Atlanta, in West Memphis, and it's an excellent film where he elevates this subculture of Black American dirt ride dirt bike riding into almost a mythical status. I recommend anyone who comes to see Blue Beetle to then go check out Charm City Kings. It's a very enjoyable film, which might have been the one that got him this gig. Because you see something special in that movie where the characters are all very endearing, but at the same time he puts them in this urban mythical setting. And mythical in the sense that he knows how to present larger than life personalities in this very visually inspiring and exciting way. And he does the same thing in Blue Beetle, where he really gives the community being portrayed the spotlight, the center of attention, with also a richer historical background than you would expect in a DC movie. And honestly, guys, it makes me wonder what James Gunn is going to do with this
Sure.
section of the franchise, right?
I'm very interested in seeing Superman.
Indeed, and it's nice. This is certainly not going to end up on my best of the year list, but it feels nice to be pleasantly surprised by something, especially in this genre, which is felt so oversaturated. Marvel's exhausting. Secret Wars is just terrible.
You know, it's interesting you say that because so many superhero products have come out within the past couple of years, and I have not really felt a lot for a lot of them. I mean, I haven't even watched Secret Invasion.
What?
What?
Oh my
No
God.
way.
What?
A lot
Oh
of you
my
are like,
God.
"What's Secret Invasion?"
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
Don't worry about it. It's not worth it.
Yeah. It's
one of the few
keep
that's
it
really
secret.
one of the few that's really cut through all of the mud is Guardians of the Galaxy, and I feel that this movie really lives up to the James Gunn kind of legacy.
Yeah.
And it really speaks to a lot of themes, a lot of ideas that James Gunn brought the same kind of heart to in his film, talking about animal testing and animal abuse. This film kind of does the same. And if you're not interested in all of these more intricate themes, you're just looking for a fun superhero movie. Blue Beetle has a lot of, I'll say, Shazam, Spider-Man, Iron Man DNA. It's like a mashup of all three. It's a very fun watch. It doesn't overdo the action. Some stuff is a little jarring. Maybe some of it by design.
It doesn't. Oh, I don't know. I don't know how to speak to comedy. I mean, it's subjective, but as someone who very quickly picks up when on the cringy, like, okay, this is too much.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that. So I
It
think
knew when to pull away.
I think I look. There's a broad appeal for everyone, but I think the most important thing right now is Latino representation, which has just been so historically abysmal
Yeah.
that this is like, as I said, it's not the step forward. There's still so much more work to do, but hopefully this will inspire indie filmmakers, but also the more studio stuff to.
Yeah, well, I think Soto proves there's room to do a little more with these genre films than has been allowed before. So yeah, I think we all totally
Pleasantly
recommend
surprised,
Blue
fun
Beetle.
time. You know what? It's one of those that, like, probably not tomorrow, but if someone I knew came in town and they were like, "Let's go see this," I would probably say, "Why not? Let's go to
Hey, great way to escape
Alamo
Hurricane.
Draft House or something."
Great way
so
to-
that's already a good sign for me.
Good way to escape Hurricane Hillary. Anyway.
Also, I think another thing,
Which is
runtime,
barreling down.
well paced. It just moves. But it's also like 2 hours, like barely over 2 hours.
Yeah, I think it clocks in at like two. Well, I guess with credits, 209,
Yeah.
204. So it's not. It's another example of how lesser is better with a lot of these movies. You don't have to push
No
it
fat,
to 220.
really.
Yeah, you don't have to push
It's
it
just
to
a fun
220.
time throughout, and it's a great time.
It's a fun time.
It's
So
fun.
there we go, guys.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us for this in the dark review of Blue Beetle.
Breaking it live, I think episode 14 by now.
Somewhere around there, but I just find it funny that they're closing down the
Yes.
mall around us as we're discussing Blue Beetle and the last denizens of the
Yes.
place
You probably
going to
heard,
Shake Shack
but,
or something. Yeah, stay tuned. We'll be back next week if we survived Hurricane Hillary.
Yes, we are.
yeah.
We're in the middle of our.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
We are in the middle of our third episode of Chronicles of Man. We actually recorded a huge segment today, so we're doing our due diligence. We really want to make it quite an event. So hopefully, if everything goes right, end of August, early September, we'll have that out.
We have we have a lot of good stuff coming your way, including Jose is going to initiate soon with us. Well, I don't want to spoil too much, but let's just say there might be some video games right in the future.
That's what we're talking. That's what we're talking.
So,
We shall see.
We shall see. Good stuff ahead. We'll see what new releases are coming out. Hopefully, also talk about some rediscovered gems and
leave us your comments here under this video or on our social media. And if you catch Blue Beetle this weekend, revisit us here, revisit this video,
Yes.
comment down here on what you thought, whether you agreed with us or whether
Especially
you thought
if
we
you
lost our
disagree.
minds.
Trust me, a lot of people say that, but like part
Yeah.
of why we're doing this podcast is we think it's important to actually have good faith criticism,
Yes.
especially if you did not like it at all. If you didn't like Oppenheimer, if you didn't like Mission Impossible, like engage with us. We love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, everybody, they're about to kick us out. So
Till next time.
Till next time.
Peace.
See you all later.